Welcome to EVTN News, and thank you for joining me this evening. So we have Lent coming up, and for Lent, I'm sure many of you know, I am doing a video series where I'm doing daily readings, and they will be from my, what would I say, a modern Latin Mass Missal. I have a Latin Mass Missal from the 60s, and so the readings, they're not going to be directly from the Douay Reims, I don't think. But they will be in a more readable tone. Like they will be in more readable words. Because if I'm reading the Douay Reims, it just sounds very clunky and I read it very slowly. And it's good for actually like reading to myself, but for reading out loud, it's very kind of awkward. And yeah, that's an excuse, but whatever. I hope you tune in for my daily readings. I'm trying to keep them very short. Not the daily readings, but the videos. I'm trying to keep the videos very short. And so I hope that you find them helpful, and I will be talking about the saint of the day, the Roman and the Byzantine saint of the day. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to be doing that all of Lent, and then we'll see what happens. So EVTN News, Eternal Vigano Television Network. Speaking about Archbishop Vigano, remember he supported the Canadian truckers. So good job. Archbishop Vigano is usually on the right side of pretty much everything. I don't know. Is there anything I really disagree with Archbishop Vigano about? I don't know. I'd have to really think hard about that. There is a Canadian archbishop who spoke out against Archbishop Vigano. Archbishop of Gatineau, Paul-Andre de Rocher, said, "I don't know who wrote Monsignor Vigano's latest script, but I just want to make it clear that as a Canadian archbishop who is close to the scene, I disagree strongly with his fabricated premise, his poor analysis, and his mistaken conclusions. And I did not see any Canadian Catholic bishops who expressed their support for the truckers." Meanwhile, many Protestant pastors publicly expressed support for the truckers. So the Protestants are supporting, I don't want to say the Catholic faith, but they're supporting Catholic values, opposing tyrannical governments, more than the Catholic bishops. The Catholic bishops, how much money do they get from the Canadian government? I don't know. So I see the praying for an end to the war and praying for the war to end and for communism. I do want to make a side note here. I wanted to make a note of this. I do know a Ukrainian priest. He's from Ukraine, grew up under communism, and he's very discouraged about what's happening. I don't know the stories. I don't know the truth. And quite frankly, he said he doesn't watch the news, but he's very discouraged because he has many, many family members and friends in the Ukraine. And so if you could, please pray for him and everyone involved in the situation. Like I said, I don't know. I don't think there's really any believable information online. So that's it. That's my comments on that. And everyone is a foreign policy expert right now, and I'm not. So there's my opinions. But pray for everyone involved. That's what we can do. And it's certainly a bad situation. That's really what it comes down to, and people's lives are affected. You know, even the threat of war is to me unfathomable. I don't even know if there was a threat of war in my country, I don't know what I'd do. So these people are really dealing with these real life situations, and it's not pleasant or convenient. All right, so removing the Vatican at a Priesthood Conference. What's the goal of this Priesthood Conference? Well, Jesuit father, starting out with Jesuit, that's a good start, right? Jesuit father Gianfranco Ghirlanda, a well-known canon lawyer, spoke February 19th of the Vatican Conference. The Church has never claimed that celibacy is intrinsic to the priesthood, he said. And in fact, the Eastern churches have maintained the discipline of having both celibate and married clergy, and the Latin churches welcome married priests coming from other denominations, which is true. Mostly. The church never claims celibacy is intrinsic to the priesthood. I mean, you can have married priests. I know they're good married priests, but I am opposed to the idea of married priests. I'm not opposed to actual married priests because some of them are good, but I think that celibacy should be mandatory. That's my take. Hot take. I don't know. Is that really a hot take in the Roman Rite? Making greater claims about the relationship of celibacy of the priesthood will not help Catholics understand its profound and spiritual theological meaning. Father Gerlanda responded, celibacy is not a divine law, because otherwise the discipline of the Eastern churches would not be possible, and it would not have been possible to have married priests in the early church, even if they were called to continence, as Father Justo had said in his speech. So, what do you want? Like, what do these guys want? They want married priests, but they're like, oh, well, it's possible because St. Peter was married. Well, guess what? He kind of gave up his wife, or he gave up the marital rights to his wife. Do you want to require that for married priests? I don't think so. I don't think they do. A married priesthood is not a second-class priesthood, Father Gerlanda said, because married priests also proclaim the gospel, lead the Christian people, and celebrate the sacraments. Celibacy or marriage does not touch the priesthood in itself. So you can see here, they're trying to get married priests. And you know how it's... Taylor Marshall was saying this a long time ago. He said, okay, the steps are married priests, women priests, and then LMNOP priests and married LMNOP priests. That's the goal. And so the married priesthood is could potentially be a casualty. The Vatican are talking about it a lot. So moving on, Bishop Sticca, he's in a lot of hot water now. So remember, I don't know if it was a year ago or less, how there was a seminarian that he kind of just, he let him live, he let the seminarian live in his rectory, and the seminarian was accused of harassment. Well, there's more information coming out about this. A February 22nd lawsuit against the Diocese of Knoxville, Tennessee, and its bishop, Sticca, alleges that a former parish organist was raped and sexually harassed by a diocesan employee and seminarian. The diocesan investigation into his allegation was impeded by the bishop. Bishop Sticca told the Pillar last year that he removed a diocesan investigator looking into the rape allegation, and that he knew in his heart the seminarian was innocent. I don't know. I have a feeling about this that it's not going to go well, but just because you have a feeling about something doesn't mean much. But I gotta go with my gut, and I'm gonna say this isn't gonna turn out super well. That's what I gotta say. Now we'll move to Cardinal Dolan. Okay, the Archdiocese of New York says that its bishop does not have the authority or power to review statements made by Father James Martin about gender-affirming treatment for children. Remember, Father James Martin was a supportive of this, of giving drugs to children, because a boy thinks he's a girl or a girl thinks she's a boy, and you got to give them drugs. Horrible. The Archdiocese of New York, one of the most prominent and public-facing Roman Catholic dioceses in the United States, says that Jesuit priest Father James Martin is outside its jurisdiction. Really? Because they don't really seem to think that when traditional priests try to make their parishes more traditional, right? Let's go back a few years. Remember Cardinal Dolan's comments about Governor Cuomo? Cuomo publicly celebrated abortion, and he said he was Catholic, and Cardinal Dolan said, oh, I can't do anything about it, and most many theologians said, yeah, you can excommunicate him. And the same goes for Father James Martin. You're allowed to ban any priest from your diocese, Cardinal Dolan. Yet, the Archdiocese of New York says that Father James Martin is outside its jurisdiction. Where's Father James Martin at then? Where is their jurisdiction? Whose jurisdiction is Father James Martin under? Because it would be under a diocese, right? And you certainly wouldn't want people to attend the SSPX in your diocese, would you? Whose jurisdiction are they under? You know how these bishops are happy to speak out against the SSPX. They're happy to say, oh, they're not in communion with the Catholic Church. But yet Father James Martin, I can't really do anything about that. Really. Bishop Zanchetta. During a February 22 session of the Zanchetta trial, 3 Oron priests testified. So remember Bishop Zanchetta, he was accused of harassment in Argentina, and apparently he talked about his friendship with Pope Francis. Well, Pope Francis took him into the Vatican, and so now he's back on trial. The seminarians feared Zanchetta, who often visited them. He told seminarians he was the bishop and could expel them. The seminarians suffered a state of anxiety because of everything he was going through and therefore gave up his studies. Zanchetta preferred some seminarians giving them gifts, clothes, computers, money, while ignoring others. Zanchetta had a physical approach to the seminarians. He would often visit first-year seminarians who were lodged in the cathedral's presbytery in their rooms and stay for dinner with alcoholic drinks until late. So that's some of the things that have been released in this trial. And remember, he said he's good friends with Pope Francis, and he lived in the Vatican for several years. So there you go. Okay. C9. This is Pope Francis's Council of Cardinal Advisors. They have discussed a report on the role of women in the Church, the Vatican said on Wednesday. The Holy See Press Office said on February 23rd, during the 3-day meeting, the 7 cardinals heard and commented on a report by the theologian Sister Linda Pocher, FMA, on the role of women and the Marian principle in the Church. And what the Marian principle is Mary was this great influence in the Church, and so we need to promote women in the Church. And I'm like, okay, well, this is making me very uncomfortable, because women in the Novus Ordo, women can do everything except give a sermon, and priests, like the very crazy priests, let them give sermons. I mean, let's not pretend that doesn't happen. Now, the cardinal advisors, the C9, they're more like, I think there's 7 of them. And let's see, the role of women is one of the 4 main topics in the German Synodal Way. There you go. And so with the C9, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about, oh, well, I let women read at Mass, and they can be Eucharistic ministers? The problem is, that's not, they can already do that. So what can't they do? Preach. Ordain. They can't be ordained. So I think they're talking about women deacons. Let's put 2 and 2 together, right? So the C9 includes Germany's Cardinal Marx, Honduran Cardinal Oscar Rodriguez Maradiaga, U.S. Cardinal Sean O'Malley, Indian Cardinal Oswald Gracias, and Congolese Cardinal Fridolin Ambogo Bensungu. He's a name to watch for because he's a young African priest, but he's a favorite of Pope Francis. Doesn't make a lot of sense, I know, but that's how it seems it's working out. They were joined by Cardinal Parolin, Vatican Secretary of State, and Cardinal Giuseppe Bertello, former president of the Vatican City State, and Bishop Marco Molino, the secretary of the Council of has a chance at the papacy. A lot of people thought he did, but with his fraudulent property deal, he's still in the Vatican though. He hasn't been fired yet. What's his name? Becciu, Cardinal Becciu it was a scapegoat for that one, but we'll see how that turns out because that's a lot of things come out in the trial. But as far as the Vatican on the role of women in the church or deaconettes, I think that this is certainly a priority. And remember, Pope Francis had this commission on women deacons. He had the first two were, I think they were inconclusive, and so he commissioned a third one. Why would you keep Why would you keep appointing commissions on women deacons if the first two give you answers? Like when the first two gave you answers, why would you continue to research it? It makes no sense if you're committed to the doctrine of the Catholic faith. So there's no question here. Okay. So this you might see something here in your parish, kind of similar to this. Plans have been made for 16 men from Vietnam to come to New Zealand to study and prepare to be diocesan priests. Former Holy Cross College rector Monsignor Brendan Daly has played a key role in arranging for the Vietnamese men to come to New Zealand. So the first thing here, they can't get enough men in their seminaries, and so they're arranging to have men from Vietnam come to the seminary. Makes total sense, right? I asked Bishop Pierre Nguyen Van Vien about the possibility of some of those who were not accepted for the seminary in Vietnam coming to New Zealand instead. Bishop Vien consulted with the Vinh seminary rector and the parish priests of prospective students, and during the next few months the students agreed to come. They were interviewed on Zoom by Father Tien Chow, the vocation director at Christ Church, New Zealand, and myself. There was also a Zoom call to each of their parents to obtain permission to bring their sons to New Zealand, he said. So, basically, they don't have enough priests, and they're bringing them in from foreign countries. I don't know, maybe that's happening in your diocese. Maybe many of the priests in your diocese are from foreign countries, and that's not to be critical of these priests that are coming, but that's critical of the state of the church, really, because you can't get enough seminarians, you can't get enough priests, and so you have to bring them in from foreign countries. What does that say? It says you're doing something wrong, does it? Or is it just the state of the church? Because if you need so many priests, what about the priest-to-person ratio? I don't know. What do you think? Does that happen in your diocese? It's hard to get diocesan priests, and when they're bullied in the seminaries, when obedience is beaten into them, then you have a major problem. You really do. All right, I think I talked about this guy last week, Father Brian Massingale. He's openly LMNOP in New York City. He says, here's a quote, "My dream wedding would be either two men or two women standing before the church, marrying each other as an act of faith, and I can be there as the official witness and say, yes, this is of God," he said at a recent class at Fordham University. All right, Fordham University, New York City, rotten. Completely rotten, completely overrun by Jesuits, which makes it rotten. Father Massingale, rotten. He's an openly LMNOP priest, and he promotes a disordered lifestyle, and Cardinal Dolan really needs to suspend him because he's going to continue to preach this rotten nonsense. And Cardinal Dolan doesn't have jurisdiction over this priest, right? He doesn't have jurisdiction over any priest in his diocese, because guess what? All are welcome. This is the new church, and you can believe whatever you want. All religions are equal, right? All religions are willed by God, right? Archbishop Gullickson posted on his blog, and I'm going to read the end of it. He said, "I guess for my part I have always underestimated the visceral hatred of the last elements standing of a generation older than mine, which since the 1950s at least have mindlessly pushed forward the Star Trek agenda of venturing where no man has gone before. Condemnations of rigidity are no more than a smokescreen to cover trimmed with lace. Desperately holding to the Novus Ordo, and the delusion that it might represent a way forward must be in its death throes. With confidence we will hold for tradition, and the hope that true religion will stand forth upon the rubble of the edifice of the last 60 years, marred as it is by violence and dissimulation. Wow. Archbishop Gullikson is a retired nuncio. I believe he was from Switzerland. He was retired as a nuncio in Switzerland. He's from the United States. I believe South Dakota, and I believe he's in South Dakota right now. And he is someone to watch for. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's relatively young. He took an early retirement. And it didn't seem like he really had any kind of reason to take an early retirement. I mean, it didn't seem like he had health issues or anything like that. So he took an early retirement for a reason. I don't know why, but I hope that there's a lot of good things in store for him. So let's watch for Archbishop Gullikson and see what if he has anything anything else interesting to say. I don't know, but we'll find out soon. Archbishop Roche. Archbishop Roche. People tell me it's Roche. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. He said he's had some very interesting comments, but very obvious where he's coming from here. He said liturgical formation has been very lacking in Catholic seminaries. He told this to pro-Francis journalist Christopher Lamb. And you know what? I agree, but not with what the rest of what he says. Roche spoke of strong currents among priests who discovered the Latin Mass, and Lamb added that it is not uncommon for newly ordained priests to almost immediately start celebrating it. Oh boy, we're in the danger zone, right? The liturgy congregation is now preparing a document on liturgical formation in seminaries to counteract this and teach the richness of the liturgical reform. Roche calls the historical fact that the 1969 Novus Ordo was pushed through against the wishes of Vatican II ridiculous. His argument, Paul VI was going through the Novus Ordo text page by page from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night. Thus, Roche confirms the concept of a pope as inventor of new liturgies. He also admits that Vatican II changed the understanding of the Catholic priesthood as it's not simply the priest alone who celebrates the Eucharist, but all the baptized who celebrate with him. And you know, Paul VI and John the 23rd both said Vatican II doesn't contain new doctrines, but the Ecclesia Dei document references the new doctrines of Vatican II. They say some people refuse to accept the new doctrines of Vatican II. Okay, so what is it? Did it contain doctrine or not? It certainly seems like Archbishop Roche believes Vatican II represented a change in the theology, which can't happen. So what is it? And if we're sticking to the Vatican here, 6 German bishops, including Cardinal Rainier Wolicki of Cologne, who's a critic of the German Synodal Way, have visited the Vatican in recent days. Now, Cardinal Wolicki, I believe, is in the minority here, obviously. The National Catholic Register learned that their visits, which largely went unreported by the media, were mostly to discuss the Synodal Way after its latest Synodal Assembly drew considerable criticism and threatened to throw the entire enterprise into jeopardy. Really? I think there was a lot of outrage, but not in Germany, and you haven't heard any outrage from the Vatican, have you? Bishop Franz Joseph Bode of Osnabrück, deputy head of the German Bishops' Conference and one of the main leaders of the Synodal Way, was received by Pope Francis on Thursday. according to the Vatican. And speaking of the Vatican, the habitless nun, Sister Natalie Beckhardt, will speak at a New Ways Ministry April conference. Remember, New Ways Ministry, pro-LMNOP, anti-Catholic. You can obviously say that. On February 6, 2021, she was appointed by Pope Francis as the Vatican's Undersecretary of the Synod of Bishops, and December 21 was appointed member of the Dicastery for Communication. The Father Robert Nugent Memorial Lecture is what she'll be participating in. It is a series instituted by New Ways Ministry to honor the memory of one of its co-founders, Father Robert Nugent, who passed away on January 1st, 2014. Obviously, he was a big supporter of LMNOP and thus opposing the Catholic faith. The purpose of the lectureship is to address topics that were dear to Father Bob's mind and heart: pastoral outreach to the LMNOP people and their families, theological developments in the area of sexuality, gender, and building bridges of reconciliation between the LMNOP community and institutions within the Catholic Church. So, I don't know what these people are thinking, but look, I mean, there's LMNOP people, openly LMNOP priests in New York. Cardinal Dolan doesn't care. Openly, like a social justice nun speaking to an LMNOP organization. The Synod, the Synod website, the main Synod website promotes this LMNOP group, anti-Catholic group. And we're seeing all this ridiculous nonsense. And I'm seeing all kinds of comments on the chat, too. Ukraine. Priests being married is not the answer. What the priests, archbishops, bishops are doing is Satan's work. Yeah, sure. Okay. And then there's, I can't even, some of these comments I'm not allowed to read out loud. Sorry, guys. Dolan is a disgrace to the faith. Thanks for watching, Patty. Women should not be on the, women should not be on the altar. I'm a Novus Ordo goer. There you go. Excellent. Need more of you need more of you to come around from the Novus Ordo and realize that this is the case. We are fighting against corruption. Okay. And watch the BBC documentary Inside the Vatican. Features the year leading up to 14 cardinals ordained. St. Peter's is more like a business than a spiritual home. Yeah, and there's investigations into finances, but it's hard. It's very hard. Okay. When is Parent Ryan going to join you again? I know he is famous now and doesn't like us peasants. Yeah, I mean, he's getting a lot of followers on Twitter, and he's spreading the gospel of the LMNOP community. And I don't really know, but follow him on Twitter. That's his quotes. And don't give up Twitter for Lent. If you want to follow Parent Ryan and continue to receive messages of inspiration of the modernist church. I don't know what else to say on that. But I guess, to me, and do what you need to do for Lent. I said, don't give up YouTube for Lent, but you know what? You do what you need to do. But I am going to do the daily readings for Lent. I mean, I'm doing the Saint of the Day and the daily readings, and if people want to continue to watch that, I hope that people really do watch it, because this is something, it's a very short, quick devotion, reading the daily readings, hopefully less than 3 or 4 minutes every day. Sometimes it might be about 5 minutes, not a whole lot out of your day. So I'm just going to try to make it short. Now, for Holy Week, no, it's probably going to be closer to like at least 20 minutes or so. That's going to be tough. I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But for all of Lent daily readings, I'm going to continue to do EVTN news, bring you the latest breaking news, bring you the latest Catholic news. And you know what? If I don't have charity, then what's the point? I mean, I've been critical I've been very critical of a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I can criticize Pope Francis on here all I want. He doesn't watch me, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm bringing these things to light, and if you really, really want to help out this channel, please consider subscribing and sharing with your friends. And thank you so much for watching EVTN News. This has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.